Just over a month ago, I took a look at Sonic Heroes and whether or not it was possible to beat Team Sonic Story without collecting a ring. I'm back today to take a look at Team Dark and do the exact same challenge. There's very little documented evidence on YouTube and the internet in general on this Team Story and collecting 0 rings, so this could very well be the first full playthrough of the story aiming to collect 0 rings. So let's dive in. Bonsoir ladies and gentlefolk. About a month ago we played Team Sonic Story and we tried not to collect a ring, and it went a lot better than I expected. We pulled off the world's first casino park with 0 rings, and we have YouTube's current lowest ring count collected in Sonic Heroes. What a fucking achievement in my life. So I thought, why not do it again? But obviously we'll do it with the Dark Story this time, because I actually had a lot of fun trying to do it, and this is going to be a bit more challenging for other reasons than Team Sonic. Not only do I now have an idea of what I'm doing, but Team Dark is essentially the hard mode of the game, in that their level layouts are a bit different. There are more enemies and whatnot, more hazardous falls, probably a few more light speed dashes here and there, which is just going to continue to increase the ring count. So I just want to see how far we can get, and of course they don't have the same Team Blast ability as Team Sonic, so we can't pull off any skips using the massive homing attack that they've got, which I've already forgotten the name of. But yeah, you get the gist. We're going again. So I'm just going to bounce right in. We'll go with Seaside Hill. So up first we have Seaside Hill, and unlike Team Sonic, this one starts us off in a precarious position in the fact that we run straight into a line of 4 rings. Oh, you're kidding me. No, we've just started the challenge. And as much as I tried, we cannot move our character. The only thing we can do here is spam the light speed dash, and of course that'll bring us into a ring. So straight off the bat, Team Dark is not possible without collecting a ring. So looks like we're going back to minimizing what we collect. On that note, minimizing rings in Seaside Hill after this is relatively easy. Much like Team Sonic, the layout is very similar, so dodging rings is a cakewalk. Now I know not to touch rainbow rings and all this other fancy stuff from last time, so we can just speed through the level with a good pace and get it over and done with, collecting a grand total of 4 rings. Not the ideal start, but it could have been a lot worse. It's really, really annoying. Wasting no time, we head straight over to Ocean Palace, and this one went quite similar to that of Team Sonic in that there wasn't really anything to trouble us in this stage when it came to collecting 0 rings. The primary difference was the stage difficulty itself, so it took a little bit longer to navigate and get through, but beside that, yet another cakewalk that we can finish quite easily. The main difference here is we can take advantage of Team Dark's Team Blast to be in Chaos Control. Upon clearing the screen on activation, it also freezes time for the 10 seconds it has left after a cooldown meter. And I thought of a clever idea to use this just before the boulder chase. This would freeze the primary rock in place so that we didn't have to worry about it hitting us during the first segment, so we could take our leisurely time, not collecting any rings, and then when the other 2 came by we can do what we did last time and just trigger their activation points and let them roll on forward. We finish Ocean Palace with a total of 0 rings. Egghawk went exactly the same as it did in Team Sonic Story. You have to start the boss by jumping backwards and then switching to flight formation so not to touch any rings. Move it forward, beat the shit out of the Egghawk. Job's a good one. Egghawk is finished with 0 rings. Everyone's favourite Grand Metropolis was up next, and once more this one went very similar to that of Team Sonic. The level was slightly longer, so it did take a bit longer to get through, but that is not a problem as the rings were very, very dodgeable. There are a couple of sections within the level that almost had me dead. No! Oh my god, what a save that was, Jesus Christ. And there was especially one point that had me double check my ring counter because I thought I picked rings up a lot earlier in the stage. When did I collect 3 rings? I'm just going to quickly look back at the footage and find out when I picked those up, because I don't recall when that was. Okay, so it turns out as soon as we got off that ramp that brought us to this room, there was some rings like right in front of the checkpoint, which we picked up. So I am going to go and commit die, but all that aside, Grand Metropolis was just another fun time as it always is, and we finished the stage with 0 rings. Power Plant gave us a challenge as soon as we started the stage, which was unexpected. We can't do the really cool... Uh-oh. Wait a minute, that's not good. Ooh, it's tight. Can we dodge that ring? Right, we'll start moving backwards. That doesn't work. Move sideways. Oh, this isn't looking good, bruv. Oh no, you collect even more if you move forward. There's got to be a direction we can move where we don't pick any up. Because I'm pretty sure it's just Omega that's picking it up. Let's analyze this. There we go. I bloody knew it. Yeah, some smart manoeuvring is how we get that. Yeah, I was going to say, no, guys, let's not do this. No, let's not do that. We're not here to do that today. There we go. Once I decided to lock in and actually concentrate on what I was doing, the rest of the stage was perfectly fine. We had a few moments that were similar to that of Team Sonic, where it took a little bit of smart thinking to get past, and in this case, a little bit more patience as we discover a new strategy to reduce the amount of resets. But all is said and done, Power Plant was yet another walk in the park, and we finished the stage with 0 rings. Quite unfortunately, we suffered the same fate with Team Dark's first rival battle of Team Chaotix. We spawned directly on top of a ring before we're even allowed to move, and we can't dodge it no matter what we do. Therefore, Team Chaotix is not possible without collecting a ring, and we finish it with 1 ring collected. Now, unlike that of Team Sonic, Casino Park presents us with roughly the same challenges, however, not the same solutions. As I mentioned earlier, the same sort of skip we performed on this stage is not possible. Roulette skip is not possible with Team Dark, simply because their Team Blast ability does not let us perform this huge homing attack much like Team Sonic's did. Nope. So I knew from the get-go this stage would be impossible without collecting a ring, and the other question we had to ask ourselves after that was, how few can we do it in? And the answer proved to be tricky, because not only were there sections where we're forced into collecting rings like the roulette table, but there was also this one little section that I was dying to get past without collecting a ring. But unfortunately, after a couple of minutes, and when I say a couple of minutes, I mean about 20 minutes of trying to, I ended up picking 1 ring up. All these casino tables were an absolute bastard to try and get past without even touching them, let alone collecting a ring. It required a lot of luck in a lot of places to get off these tables without collecting a ring most of the time. But by the end of it, we had to touch the roulette and we had to touch this singular ring on this pulley, so therefore we finished the stage with 21 rings collected. Obviously nowhere near as good as 0, but I guess 21's not awful. Bingo Highway without a doubt was my least favourite part about this challenge. Straight away the stage starts with a big pile of roughly 9 or 12 rings that are pretty difficult to avoid. You essentially have to hug the left side of the casino table and pray to God that nobody goes smashing into them. And as soon as you finish that, you gotta hope these bumpers don't send you flying back up. And if you manage to avoid all that, on the left and the right side of this table, you've got 2 of these neon squares, and if you break either of them, they award you with 5 rings. So straight away we've got a problem. Not only do we have to not have touched these squares, which will require an insanely lucky bounce off these bumpers, but our other 2 companions aren't allowed to touch them either. I was stuck on this section for at least 33 minutes. The only way I managed to get past it was an insane amount of luck. I was ready to call it at 5 rings, but I eventually reached the bottom of it, only collecting, I believe, 1 or 2 rings. So I went back, tried again, and we eventually got the lucky run where we got to the bottom with 0 rings. Spawn, hurry up and spawn, hurry up and spawn. Where's Shadow? Got it, we got it, 0 rings, let's go. Regardless, this was not fun. You stay there. That's interesting. Let's go. Yeah, they're stuck there, let's go. The stage carries on as normal. Dodging rings was a little bit difficult in a few areas, but nothing too strenuous. And just like Team Sonic, we hit Heartbreak at the end, where we have to go down the same tunnel and collect the same 2 rings as we did in Team Sonic's story. And it is absolutely gut-wrenching to get this far trying so hard just to be shut down by this obstacle. I know there was a skip in Team Sonic's story that allows you to bypass these rings entirely, but it's incredibly difficult to pull off, and I wasn't about to try it for Team Dark either. So we finished Bingo Highway with a grand total of 2 rings. Say it with me now, Robot Carnival also has you spawn on top of a ring, just like Team Sonic's story. Clearing out the robots without touching any of the surrounding rings in this story was a little bit more challenging, but that's to be expected with it being the hard mode, but we still get through it with only collecting a single ring. Rail Canyon once again is another one that isn't exactly an obstacle. It just requires a little bit of tricky footwork in a few places, but other than that, an absolute breeze. I had a lot more fun with Team Dark's version of Rail Canyon knowing what I had to do now, Of course, in some instances it was a little bit more tricky, but again, that is to be expected. I discovered a couple of routes that I've actually never taken before, so it was nice to learn something new while playing through this stage, which is otherwise getting a bit bland, having played it for so many years and it being a little bit less on the interactive side. But regardless, Rail Canyon is finished with 0 rings. One of my favourite stages in the game was once again one of my least favourite for this challenge. Bullet Station provides the same issues that it had in Sonic's story. We soon encounter our first cannon section of Team Dark's version of the stage, and we are forced to collect 15 rings within this section. We keep moving on as normal, but not long after that we encounter a Lightspeed Dash over a massive pit. There is no way around this, so we are forced into taking the Lightspeed Dash and collecting a good number of rings in doing so. The next cannon section was literally right around the corner, and this one also forces us to collect a good bit of rings. Not 15, but 10 this time. No matter how many times I went back through it, 10 was the absolute minimum I took out of this section. Thankfully though, we was given a little bit more breathing room this time, as the bobsleigh section doesn't actually force you into collecting any rings. So we was able to finish Bullet Station with what is still an eye-watering tally of 47 rings. A huge dent in this challenge. And of course, the Egg Albatross is exactly the same as it is in Team Sonic Story. And again, this was another easy fight. It's just a shame we have to spawn on top of a ring. So we finished this fight with 1 ring collected. We got to take a break next and go to Frog Forest, which was an easy stage in Team Sonic's campaign. The only problem is we was forced to collect 5 rings through one of these balloons. However, Team Dark doesn't have this problem. We are forced into collecting absolutely fuck all here. So we can just play the stage as normal, just make sure we dodge any rings that are on the path. Exactly as intended in this challenge. We finished Frog Forest with a total of 0 rings and 0 headaches. Moving straight into Lost Jungle. Lost Jungle has the same properties as Frog Forest in that we are also not forced into collecting any rings on these balloons this time. Team Dark seems a little bit more lenient when it comes to this challenge and these balloons and scripted sequences in comparison to Team Sonic. The rest of the level plays out as normal, more tricky platforming here and there, but not a problem. The key difference being here, as soon as I finished my Team Sonic playthrough and it was uploaded to YouTube, I had a look at everyone else's runs, as I probably should have done this beforehand, but it turns out the balloon that gifted me the 5 rings in Lost Jungle can actually be avoided with a very tight and precise timing in order to weave your way just past it. If I would have known this sooner, I would have done this in Team Sonic Story, however, well, I didn't know. Let's fucking go. So with this new knowledge in mind, I'm able to finish Lost Jungle with no rings collected. Now, oddly enough, the rival fight against Team Sonic does not pan out the same way it does against Team Dark in Team Sonic Story. Team Sonic is the only team in this fight to spawn on top of a ring, and you can actually hear that ring being stood on as soon as the fight begins. The ring that Team Dark is gifted at the start of the fight is standing right in front of them. We don't actually pick a ring up, but they do. It's your choice whether or not you walk into this ring. You've just got to jump around it if you don't want it. So with that being said, you play the fight as normal, and Team Sonic is in fact beatable without collecting a ring. The first rival fight we're able to do this for. Why is this the case? I have no fucking clue, but I'm not going to complain, because the less rings, the merrier. What was with that hedgehog that looked like my twin? I was absolutely dreading returning to Handcastle with how it treats us in Team Sonic Story. It forces you into collecting a lot of rings, otherwise it would be a relatively easy stage to get by. Not only do you have to start the stage by collecting these 5 rings, which you also can't avoid much like the start of Seaside Hill, but when you get further on the stage you can pull off these nice jumps to, skip a long Lightspeed Dash. You can do the door skip to avoid running into a lot of rings on your way there. I probably would have got around to doing this challenge like a hell of a lot sooner, but I've just spent a lot of my free time recently playing Shadow Generations. Genuinely was my favourite game of last year. So I've been playing a lot of Shadow Generations, and specifically been modding it on PC, because Jesus Christ, when I played it on console I was like, yeah, this is good, but there's just a few things that, I don't like so much. But obviously modders come along and they do their thing and make the game they make it fun in some areas where it wasn't in the base game, or they just make it funny to look at with certain mods. Modders are the saving grace of the Sonic community sometimes, and I mean that. So I've just been playing the game modded quite a lot, so you should probably, if you haven't already, check out the base game, but if you want to check out mods, I do recommend CD Keys to get yourself a copy of Shadow Generations really cheap, because that's what I did. You can check the description, I'll have that link there so you can get to see the keys nicely. There's absolutely no issues. You just get to this long lightspeed dash like Team Sonic story where you can't do anything but take it. You can try and minimize the rings you collect through it, and that's exactly what we had to do. Otherwise, Hang Castle is a relatively easy stage and it's just a good time all around, much like Team Sonic. It's a shame that it gets bogged down with these mandatory rings. We finished Hang Castle with a total of 57 rings. Youch. Once again, Mystic Mansion is in the same vein as Team Sonic story in that it's impossible to complete without collecting a ring. You're able to dodge a majority of the rings that they set out on your path. However, you do get to these trolley sections where you need to make frame perfect inputs to get past these rings. And while I was able to do it for the first trolley section, the second one was not so forgiving. I spent long time on this section and I was not able to get past it with 0 rings, so I had to eventually settle for 1 ring. It might be possible, it might not be. I don't remember how I did it for Team Sonic if I did manage to get 0, but put it this way, you're more than welcome to try because this is a lot harder than it looks. And of course, we get to the final room of the stage where you get into this, really trippy area and you have to take a massive lightspeed dash to get to the outside of it. It's unavoidable, we figured that out with Team Sonic, but we minimise our rings collected in this area and go on to finish it as normal, finishing the stage with 29 rings collected and another broken heart. Robot Storm is up next, and much like Robot Carnival, we are spawned on top of a ring and we can't do anything about it, so we just got to accept our fate and move on. Up next we have Egg Fleet, and again like Team Sonic we are forced to start by running into 4 rings. Unavoidable in every sense of the fashion, so what can you do? The rest of the stage goes on as normal, a lot trickier than Team Sonic's, but that is to be expected. But beside that, this is also the stage, maybe a bit too late, that I figured out where target switches are actually random in what they give you. Sometimes they might give you rings, sometimes they might give you Team Blast, sometimes they'll give you power-ups. It's entirely random what you get from these target switches, and I never knew that. So if I would have known that sooner, maybe we could have reduced our ring count in other stages. Beside that, Egg Fleet is finished with 4 rings collected. On to Final Fortress now, as I've stated, my favourite stage in franchise history, and once again glad to report that it is absolutely possible to finish this stage without touching a ring. And much like Egg Fleet, this one is a lot harder than it is in Team Sonic story to do so. But as a master of Sonic Heroes, it didn't take me long to figure out what I needed to do to get past it, so we finished Final Fortress with 0 rings. Last but not least, final boss of the story, Egg Emperor. And this one is almost identical to that of Team Sonic story. There's just a few tougher enemies to dodge here and there, but just like Team Sonic, it's a cakewalk. Do the Team Blast glitch to build up the Team Blast, pop that thing, and then beat the shit out of Eggman when you can. Finish off the fight with a grand total of 0 rings collected. And that's where we conclude Team Dark story. So in the end, how many rings did we collect? Was it more or less than Team Sonic? Well, let's tally it up. We finished Team Dark story with a grand total of 168 rings collected, just 2 more than that in Team Sonic's. I expected the tally to be a lot higher in the end, but it just shows how similar these two stories are. I believe the only stage that caused us problems where we had to collect more rings than necessary was Seaside Hill with the 4 that we was given. However, I also remember that we are able to reduce Team Sonic's count by 5 if we was to follow the Vine Swing trick that I pulled off in Lost Jungle for Team Dark. It's possible with every team. So Team Sonic's count could have been reduced down to 161 if I really wanted to be technical like that, but obviously I didn't do that in my run, so I'm not going to. But yeah, Team Dark is possible with 168 rings. Again, not ideal for a no ring challenge, but I do believe it's still the lowest recorded. So if anyone else would like to have a go and challenge this total, please do feel free. I'm always interested to see stuff like this and learn from that and see if I can get a lower tally. But we're going to finish off Sonic Heroes by playing the other teams and seeing how little rings we can complete their stories in. And after that, I might try this challenge in other games, who knows. Thanks a ton for watching, and I'll see you next time.